Hello, in this video I'm going to be doing some suspension retuning on this Traxxas S-maxx. This is the one that I actually rebuilt for some friends, and I have to admit since then, it's been or at least since I recorded the last video, it's been sitting in my room for I think like a year, maybe a year and a half. They haven't been in any rush to get it back or anything, so it just kind of got put on the back burner when other projects and even more so life has had to take priority. But I've got some free time to work on it right now, so I'm going to try to wrap this up. My desk is clear and clean, so I should be able to finish this up now. So really all I want to do in this video, wow, that body's actually got some cracking going on in there. I did not realize that. Pretty old body at this point. So I'll clean it up a little bit. And I did run this truck. Underneath, it actually still looks really clean. It's been sitting, but everything stayed pretty neat underneath, which is kind of surprising, actually. These things, especially being in nitro, tends to get really dirty, but this one seems to be okay. Now, the batteries were dead from sitting so long. That doesn't surprise me. The surprising part is I actually left them in there. Usually I don't leave batteries in there. However, the bigger issue here is, if you look, I've put fresh batteries in it, of course, and I've got steering okay, but the throttle servo is really weak. And I'm not actually getting full throw out of it anymore, so I'm going to have to deal with that as well. So I'm just going to replace that. You already saw the rebuild, you don't need to see it again, and then we'll get to the actual suspension tuning. Everything else looks pretty good. It seems to be working okay. Even the transmitter hasn't died. I'll throw that on the charger before I give it back to them, just so that they have a good charge in it. I don't expect they're going to drive it much, but you know what? I'll set it up for them as best as I can to get them started. So I'll be back once I replace the servo. I think I have one on hand somewhere. All right, I've got the servo replaced. As you can see, much stronger now, so that's good. Much better. All right, so now we can get on to the fun stuff, and by fun stuff I mean not so fun, because this is probably kind of boring, but you know what, I'm gonna do it anyway. So suspension tuning, mainly more than anything else right now, I want to get the ride height up. Also going to do some camber and toe readjustments. Not so much camber, I think the camber is okay where it's at, but the toe on the rear, I think maybe, well, it's hard to tell, but I think it's just a hair out. And I want them more a hair in. So I'm going to set those back to where they should be. And hopefully, or at least the factory, and hopefully that'll make it better. More so, when I push down on the suspension, you can see the front end comes up probably about where I need it to. I might go a little bit higher than that. The rear end is just squatted like crazy. And so I'm going to address this by adding some preload on the rear shocks. Try to get this to sit up a little more. Should level out the truck a little bit, give it more suspension travel downwards. Just keep it from bottoming out so much on the rear mainly. This is great for really rough off-road if you need like a ton of articulation, I guess, but not so much for general bashing. It's a little too low. So let's get some preload, and I'll show you what that looks like once I've got preload on there. Alright, so I've added an inch of preload to all the shocks, and as you can see, if I push down and let up, the rear end comes up a lot more to where I want it now. Not quite. I'm going to add a little bit more, I think. And that's going to go front and rear. But an inch of preload all the way around definitely helped out. Let's go ahead and add probably another ½ inch all around. Probably on the fronts and the rears, I think. And we'll see how that does. Alright, so I added an additional ½ inch of preload on all 8 shocks. And as you can see, the rear, the A-arms kind of come like maybe just past level, which is good. And then on the front, it's pretty much level now. Keep in mind the front end is going to be lighter because it doesn't have the engine, and especially once they put some fuel in here, that's going to weigh it down just a little bit more. Anyway, that gets the ride height about where I want it. And as you can see, what you want just a little bit of up travel still. You can see the shocks still have some room to move up. You don't want them all the way extended, because then you know, if you take off from a jump or whatever, if you need the suspension to travel up or articulate, you won't have it. So you want to make sure there's some room for it to travel up a little bit, at least. And so this is about where I want it. This is pretty good, I think. Keeps the chassis fairly level. maybe probably just a smidge rake forward, but it's not bad. That's perfectly fine for this truck, especially once it accelerates. It's going to want to squat in the rear, so it'll kind of ride a little more level for most of their driving anyway. So the next thing to do is actually to readjust the rear links, and well, there's a handful of ways you can do this. I want to readjust actually both the front and the rear. The easiest way, honestly, if you're going for a setup like this where you have a fairly neutral suspension setup, and by neutral I mean good all around type of ride height, where it's fairly level like this, you don't have it like slammed way down. If you have it slammed way down, you're going to get more toe out and more negative camber generally. So if you're going to run fairly level though, the easiest way to adjust this is to just put them back to the stock length. Traxxas actually gives you the lengths on each of these tie rods. So if you adjust them to the same length, use a ruler or digital caliper if you have one, measure out how long it needs to be from the tie rod end or the middle of the tie rod end where the screw goes in on either side, then that should get the toe right to stock. All right, well, I actually can't find the information I was looking for from Traxxas, which is unusual. It looks like the rod end to rod end measurement that they usually provide is not actually provided for this truck, which is weird. On most trucks, most of the Traxxas RCs at least, they will give you that, but in this case they don't. And since I don't have a RPM camber or toe gauge on hand, I'm going to show you guys a little bit of a different way of doing this, which is to measure the tires, actually. In fact, I think their toe gauge kind of does this anyway. It just gives it to you in degrees to make it easier. We're going to want to settle the suspension, so go ahead and push it down like that. And what you want to do, actually I should have the steering powered as well. We do want the steering to be center to make this easier. All right. So steering should be pretty center. Go ahead and push the suspension down. And now we can go ahead and take some measurements here. So for the front, all we want to do is get it so that the front of the tire and the back of the tire are the same distance apart. So what we'll do is take our ruler. It's going to be kind of tricky with just one hand. We want to start somewhere that's easy to see. So like right on this tread. So you can see on these tires, the middle of them have kind of a seam. So if we take and put the tread in such a way that we can measure right on that seam. So put 0 on the seam. Crap, this ruler's not long enough actually. I guess I'll have to get a measuring tape. But anyway, the idea here is we're going to get right on the seam. Right in the middle, so that way we know exactly how long this is. And then we'll do the same thing on the back side of the tire. And then we'll adjust the toe links so that the front and the rear measure the same. And then that way we know that there's 0 degrees of camber on the front. Alright, well I've got the front toe adjusted pretty much as close as it's going to get to 0. Yeah, I mean it looks pretty flat from the top. The front and the back measures out almost identical. So I think that's as close as it's getting. Now for the rear, even according to RPM's instructions with their gauge, it actually says that there's not really a good way to get an accurate, or at least a perfectly accurate toe on the rear. So here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to, let me show you another little trick actually. What we can do here, we can take our straight edge, stick it up against the front tire and the back tire, get it as close to center as you can. And then on the back there, if you have it right against your front tire, on the back, if you get that flat, that will be at 0 degrees. So what I'm going to do is get something probably a little harder than this just to make sure. And then it looks like it's pretty close anyway. But I'll adjust each of the back tires so that they're right at 0 degrees. They should be perfectly in line with the fronts. And then once that happens, I'll just go like probably another quarter turn on each of the toe links, and then that'll give us pretty much a slight toe in. It's not going to be perfectly accurate, like I said, but it'll be a lot better than what it's at now, a lot closer at least. All right, guys, well, I made the adjustments. Hopefully you can see there's just a tad bit of toe in on the rears, just from eyeballing it. It's definitely better than what it was. Sorry I couldn't get it a little more precise for you guys, but even RPM suggests to measure out the rods, but Traxxas doesn't give us those measurements, which sucks. So this is as good as I'm going to be able to get it for today. If somebody has a brand new T-Max 2.5, you want to pull off those tie rods and tell us what the exact measurement is, please let us know. Otherwise, this is as close as we're getting for tonight, so I'll clean up the body. Hopefully I can get a nice little run video for you guys on the truck before I send it back to them. But other than that, the truck's done. It should handle and run a lot better than it did when I first got it. And hopefully they'll have some fun with it. It is nitro, which is going to be tricky for their current skill level, I think. But they'll figure it out. And I'll, of course, help them out as they need it. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Pretty much the series, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.